It's a shame the original incarnation of Doctor Who ended the way it did. After hitting rock bottom with McCoy's first series, the death knell of good taste and human creativity in the eyes of many, Doctor Who stopped pissing about and tried to introduce the enigmatic attributes of the early days. I think this begins with the doesn't work but feels like it's going somewhere guilty pleasure Dragonfire, and ends with the show's final outing, the dark and nasty Survival. In that period, you have the surprisingly incredible Remembrance of the Daleks, the puzzlingly hypnotic Ghostlight, and the ahead of its time Curse of Fenric. Yes, Doctor Who is really starting to show its low budget as it's on its way out, but that doesn't make me wince if there's something in the writing. From the pen of Stephen Wyatt, who previously wrote Paradise Towers, if you haven't seen it, I don't blame you. The greatest show in the galaxy is the one to define the seventh face of Doctor Who. Of note, the greatest show in the galaxy could have been cancelled and left in the same incomplete void as Shada with Tom Baker. Right before they began filming in the BBC, they found asbestos in the studios, so they had to think fast to get it done. So if you see the tents swaying in the breeze, that's because they are. The chief clown is played by Ian Reddington, as you'd imagine from someone who looks like rejected Joker art. He puts in an arseload of theatricality. The chief was written to be a silent spectre, but it was decided that the robot clowns would be the ones who didn't talk. That was for the best. I also profess that Ian's character has a memorable death. He doesn't scream but still displays a cat-like rage and drops to the sand with this tragic sadness in his closing eyes. If you're chorophobic or you watched this as a kid, I see why him and his cronies would send you scurrying behind the sofa. As well, the legendary Irish actor T.P. McKenna stars as Captain Cook, the adventurer. McKenna was considered for the chief caretaker in Paradise Towers the previous season, and I believe him and Sylvester McCoy got on really well. Sadly, he died before he could record the DVD commentary or take part in any other extras, but he did record lines for the Psychic Circus song. McKenna gets mauled and then resurrected in Part 4, and then he dies again. I think this show has a memorable supporting cast, even if it's for the wrong reasons sometimes. Nord, Vandal the Road, WizKid, the painful piss take of 80s Doctor Who fans, and Chris Jury as Gormless Deadbeat and later sophisticated Kingpin. Nord is played by one of the sons of Jim, the no guy from The Vicar of Dibley. There's Rico Ross as the ringmaster, their own P.T. Barnum, who raps and looks a little bit like Barack Obama, as has been pointed out in YouTube comments, and Jessica Martin, who will return to Doctor Who, though not on screen, doing an impression of the Queen in Voyage of the Damned. They're the ones that spring to mind when I think of it. But where the greatest show in the galaxy stands in Who history, and makes it more relevant, is that it's actually about the show. Stephen Wyatt says this wasn't his intention, but I don't think that's true. In fact, I think it contributes greatly to my appreciation of the show. I mean, for God's sake, you have this exciting show full of creative minds reduced to a shadow of itself, with an ever-decreasing audience, including a geeky fanatic who, although he never got to see the early days, he knows it's not as good as it used to be, but he's still terribly interested. The gods of Ragnarok demand the show to get better, like the Uptops, and the climax involves Doctor Who himself facing them in an arena. Don't tell me that's not intentional. But I love good metatextual stories, and this is one of the best. And show can actually be connected with the Mind Dropper. According to one spin-off source, the Land of Fiction was created by the gods of Ragnarok until they abandoned it when they had their fill of make-believe. That's interesting. You know, maybe it's just blurring instead of separating art and reality, and it's actually referencing the unsettling origins and darker half of the circus, from the Roman Empire's pain of death to the greatest show on earth, which naturally the title is referenced to. But I can't help but see this in it, especially with Alan Waring directing this potential end and the proper end the next season. But we have one of the most badass scenes in all Doctor Who, where the Doctor defeats the gods of Ragnarok and walks out of the circus cool as a cucumber, and then a big explosion goes off. They didn't need to do it again either. Budget obviously, but also it was perfect. Finishing the video, I love the greatest show in the galaxy. It exists in its own little bubble of absurd characters, including the cowardly bollocks of an adventurer, Captain Cook, his werewolf companion Mags, a bit like the Doctor really, a much worse version of him, a deranged robot ticket inspector, and ones with masks modelled after their chief clown. Yes, it does look dated, but the tackiness works in the show's favour this time, as the death of imagination is part of the story. What I do know is that the whole end of the hippie era and peace and love theme was intentional, so it wasn't complete serendipity. But it's one of the most iconic stories of the 80s, and quite frankly, it's Doctor Who's other shining moment in a season of half good and half bad. They might have been living on borrowed time, but even so, it's proof there's life in the old dog yet. And Mark Ayre's first contribution to Doctor Who is here, so even better. I'd highly recommend you get the DVD. The making of documentary is very fascinating and includes the story of Ian Reddington getting her on set. As well, they have a skit featuring Jim Broadbent from the late great Victoria Wood, and I promised to explain it later, so I'm going to. They have a music video. Psychic Circus by Who's Who is so much fun to listen to. Good luck to you getting out of your head. And unlike Doctor in Distress, it doesn't make your soul shiver. Rather poignantly is dedicated to T.P. McKenna. I think it's one of the most underrated stories of the 80s, and it's one of my personal favourite stories, warts and all. It's the one I got Sylvester McCoy to sign when I met him, and I'll continue to revisit it because it had loads of cool stuff as a kid and it gained even more relevance to me as an adult. It shows how perfect McCoy and Aldred are as Doctor and companion, and if you're in the right state of mind, you might be able to understand why I think this programme is the greatest show in the galaxy. It plays the strengths of the sometimes funny but equally mysterious 7th Doctor. Speaking critically, I give it 9 out of 10.